60 Minutes Rewind.
If you're a viewer of C-SPAN on cable television, you know who she is. You may even be one of the thousands of Americans who send her fan letters. Betty Boothroyd, Speaker of the British House of Commons, is a lively woman of 63 and a kind of Mary Poppins with a temper. She could not be more different in manner from her American counterpart, Newt Gingrich. The Speaker in Britain must never show any signs of partiality. Difficult for someone like Boothroyd, who spent her life in politics. But as Morley Safer discovered, she does control herself with the same iron will that enables her to maintain order over the 651 unruly schoolchildren, mostly boys, otherwise known as the British Parliament.
Order! This House must come to order right away. Order! 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 All of you! Order! Order! Otherwise, I shall have to be naming a member on that bench. Look, I'm a very fair speaker here. Now, let's have it again, straight to the point with no argument. No, I'm now going to move on. I've heard enough points of order. There is business to... Mr. Galley, I've taken a point of order from you already. You will resume your seat. 10-minute rule motion.
That, of course, is not the way the House wants to be seen. This is the way it wants to be seen. The Mother of Parliaments, bearing a tradition that goes back to the Magna Carta. The monarch is chief of state, but almost powerless, prohibited from entering the House of Commons, a place reserved for the orderly conduct of democratic legislation by the people's elected representatives. The reality is, all this is a concoction worthy of Disney. This is the reality.
Very time-consuming, Mr. Streeter.
How much of your job is being a good actress?
You don't have to be a good actress. You just have to be a good speaker. I have a feeling when I put my silk robe on and I go out there in that procession, if you think because I put a smile on my face that I'm a good actress, okay, you can think that. I put a smile on my face because I love doing this job, and I want people to know I enjoy it.
But very soon, that smile can turn to a scowl as you say, time after time after time, order.
Order, that's right. Of course it can. But then you've got to deal with the mood of the House. Prime Minister's question time. When the House is standing, everybody wants to be called, or somebody said something, and everybody's cheering or shouting. I have got to get order in that House.
I will have order from both sides of this House.
He plays a pivotal role in the business of government, especially for an hour each Tuesday and Thursday in what is called Prime Minister's Question Time, when ordinary members, backbenchers, may question the leadership.
Does this not dictate
Her Majesty's loyal opposition sit to her left. Its leaders, called the Shadow Cabinet, sit on the front bench. To her right sits the party in power, the Prime Minister and his cabinet on the front bench, and behind them, their backbenchers. By tradition, the two sides are separated by two sword lengths. And on the throne sits Madam Speaker, berobed and bewigged. Except this one refuses to wear the wig. Too stuffy, she says.
Well, glad when we see the end of this day.
Betty Boothroyd has been a Labour Member of Parliament for a Northern constituency for more than 20 years. But since 1992, when the House elected her Speaker, the first woman ever, she's had to keep her socialist ideas to herself. She no longer gets to vote on legislation, except in the event of a tie, and then by tradition must vote against legislation that would change the status quo.
I have been a political animal since I came out of the womb. And as I got older, of course, even more so. But I love this House. I love our system of way Parliament works.
At 16, politics was not the center of her life. It was this. She became a tiller girl, a rather demure 1940s traveling dance troupe, but soon gave it up, went back to school, worked for the Labor Party, tried to get elected and couldn't. Went to the States in 1959, where she worked as a gopher on the JFK presidential campaign. Returned, got into local politics, and ultimately Parliament. Never married to anyone but the House of Commons. The job has always been difficult.
Throughout history, when they didn't like the Speaker,
they beheaded the Speaker. Exactly. I mean, you're in this house with some of the portraits of my predecessors, and I tell visitors here there were 9 of them who were beheaded at the request of the monarch of the day. But I think that I have a better relationship with Buckingham Palace these days, so I don't fear that.
Beyond her visible duties, the Speaker is responsible for everything from security in the House of Commons to the quality of the whiskey in the members' bar. She has a staff of 2,000 to help her, and beyond that is loneliness. She must give up friendships with all colleagues to avoid even the suspicion of partisanship, but must maintain the confidence of all party leaders while making decisions that might infuriate them. For example, on which bills get priority. It happens in gilded isolation in the Speaker's palatial apartment in the House of Commons. A corridor or 2 away, anything but isolation.
You've got to know how far you let that house go with its noise, with expressing itself. But there comes a time when they've done that after a few seconds. We want some order. And that's when I come in heavy. I say give them enough rope and then hang them, you know.
Order. I believe that backbenchers are equally entitled to a little quiet in this house, just the same as frontbenchers.
The story will continue after this.
The level of debate in the House of Commons is execrable. It always has been. It's very low. It's vulgar. It's unthinking, it's shallow, it's playing for laughs, cheap shots all the time.
Matthew Paris knows Parliament inside and out. He was a Conservative MP for 7 years. He now is the parliamentary correspondent for the London Times.
The farmyard noises, the animal noises, the crowing, the hooting, the braying, some of the insults, some of the abuses, and the general impression of mayhem is a wonderful character-building exercise.
Insult, elegant or brutal, is the House of Commons stock in trade.
But I can tell you this, that he is undoubtedly living proof that a pig's bladder on a stick can be elected as a member of Parliament.
Tony Banks called Terry Dix an inflated pig's bladder on a stick and got away with it. The Speaker on that occasion decided that it was all just in good fun.
Can we actually be serious for a moment?
He's been strutting round that dispatch box like a puffed-up peacock on heat, and today he's come in like a bedraggled battery hen that's laid its last egg.
What he should have is his goalies removed. That's what he should have.
Last month it was immediate castration he was recommending.
Order! I've had enough. Order! I've had enough colourful descriptions for one day.
And frankly, Madam Speaker, only a dimwit would ask me to.
Decorum demands that no matter how vicious the attacks, the members must refer to each other as the honourable member, or even the right honourable member.
If anyone's going to resign around here, it should be the right honourable gentleman and his right honourable friends.
But there is something hypocritical, because when you're attacking him, the last thing in the world you think of him is he's honourable.
That he's honourable. There are times when I refer to the honourable member, and I just wonder myself, I'm not going to take that any further.
But I do believe that there are phrases and as a vocabulary that should not be used in this house.
Is it the lack of eloquence that you object to, of someone going for the cheap and earthy phrase rather than the really elegant insult?
No, you see, I love elegant insults. Years ago in this House, there were members who would say when one member particularly who said when the Prime Minister wasn't on the front bench and he was questioning a Secretary of State, I refused to deal with the monkey. I rather have the organ grinder around. Now, there is nothing more insulting than that. Dennis Skinner.
The rules are tradition plus an individual speaker's own judgment. Mr. Skinner, a well-known House gadfly, loves to tweak the Conservative front bench, sometimes testing Madam Speaker's patience.
At this government and this little squirt of a minister.
Order. I'm asking the Honourable to withdraw that remark. Order. Order, I'm asking the Honourable gentleman. Order!
Why did you get so upset when Mr. Skinner referred to, quote, that little squirt of a minister? That doesn't sound that bad.
Well,
to me.
I tell you, we use the English language. It is a very rich vocabulary, and I think members here should be of a standard that they can use the richness of the English language rather than pipsqueak and all of these sort of things.
When you challenged Mr. Skinner to withdraw, and he clearly couldn't get those words out of his mouth, and you dismissed him.
Yes. Out you go. And he went. If he hadn't have gone, I would then have had to use another standing order and expel him suspend him for 5 days. Out of the House for 5 days.
And if he still won't go, do you have...
There is physical.
Muscle.
Yes. Not me personally, but the Sergeant-at-Arms would come. But I don't know throughout our history whether that has ever been used. I don't think it has.
A woman can exercise a certain amount of influence over men, partly by charm, partly by appeal to their better nature, and partly by the suggestion that, rather like mum with a cross child, she may rap their knuckles. And Betty Boothroyd, in fact, exercises all those three qualities in a rather clever blend of bossy madam, slightly cheeky and even eyelash-fluttering woman, and angry schoolmistress. She has the balance, I think, just right.
When I was a backbencher, it certainly never happened in my time, and I wish we could get back to those good old days. Now, Clerk will now proceed to read the orders of the day.
Much of our parliamentary history and many of our parliamentary rights are steeped in tradition. Not all of them are. We adapt to change the times, and I have a feeling that the Speaker's procession, the wigs, the gowns, the mace, and the television lights are a fairly canny cocktail directed just as much towards the modern viewer as they are nodding deferentially to the past.
Is living in this house overwhelming?
No, I love it. It doesn't overwhelm me at all. I have wonderful views of the River Thames, London's liquid history and all the magnificent bridges across it. And I live here alone, with the exception of a few domestic staff. They go home at night. But I just love being here on my own. I am enormously privileged.
As you know, in the United States, there is no one more partisan than the Speaker and Mr. Gingrich. Are you jealous of that?
No.
Sometimes.
Oh, I wouldn't want his job. We have operated a parliamentary system for over 600 years. I don't envy Newt Gingrich at all. Leave me to my system and he's welcome to his.